Okay, well, this is my elbow palpation video, so I'm just gonna start. So here, you have the humerus bone, and the shaft of the humerus runs along here. And then you have the supracondyle ridges, which, let's see if we, yeah, whatever, just keep it like that. So lateral and medial supracondyle ridges, right above the epicondyles that are lateral and medial. And then you have the condyles. The trochlea is going to be on the medial side, and the capitulum is on the lateral side. And then you have the ulnar bone that runs all along the medial side here. And then you have the coronoid process, or shaft of the ulna here. And the coronoid process, which is on the medial anterior aspect right here. And then the olecranon process, which is just your elbow right there. And then you have your ulnar styloid process, which is this guy right here. And that's about it for your ulna. And then you have your radius, which is the head of the radius is up right here by the humerus on the lateral side. The humerus bone runs here, so the shaft of the humerus would be here. And then the radial styloid process is this protruding right there. And then the radial tuberosity runs right in here where, well, a couple muscles attached there. So then those are all of your bones. And then articulations, or connective tissues. There's the annular ligament that runs over the head of the radius right here. And that's responsible for keeping it in the proximal radial-ulnar joint for pronation and supination. And you have your ulnar collateral ligament here on the lateral side, protecting against valgus forces. And then you have your other way around. The radial collateral ligament is right here on the lateral side, and the ulnar collateral ligament is here on the medial side. Radial collateral against varus, ulnar collateral valgus. Then you have your interosseous membrane, which runs in between your radius and your ulna. And then finally you have your ulnar nerve, which is right in here, right there, and that's your funny bone, pretty much. So then, as far as articulations go, I already mentioned it, the proximal radial-ulnar joint is right here, and that's responsible for pronation and supination. That's the head of the ulna and radius. And then the humero-ulnar joint is right here where the humerus attaches with the ulna on the medial side. And the humero-radial joint is the same thing, but radius and humerus on the lateral side. And the last thing is muscles. You have your brachialis muscle, which runs from the distal anterior surface of your humerus down to your coronoid process right here, and that's responsible for elbow flexion. Then you have your brachioradialis, which is the lateral supracondyle ridge, and it runs all the way to your radial styloid process, also elbow flexion. Then you have your biceps brachii, which are two different heads. The long head originates on the supraglenoid tubercle of the glenoid fossa down to the radial tuberosity. So the short head also inserts on the radial tuberosity, but instead of the tubercle, it originates on the coracoid process of the scapula. And those are responsible for elbow flexion and forearm supination. Then you have your triceps brachii, which run right here. The long head of the triceps brachii originates on the infraglenoid tubercle of the glenoid fossa and inserts on the olecranon process, as do all three heads, the lateral and medial head as well. But the lateral head originates on the posterior lateral aspect of the humerus right here, and then the medial head, the posterior medial aspect right here, all inserted on the olecranon process and responsible for elbow extension. Then you have your anconeus, which runs from the lateral epicondyle of the humerus to the olecranon process, very small, and is responsible for elbow extension as well. Then you have your supinator muscle, which runs from your lateral epicondyle of the humerus down to the lateral aspect of your radius, responsible for supination of the forearm. And your pronator teres has two originations, one on the coronoid process of the ulna, and the other one is on the olecranon process of the ulna, right here. And then it all attaches to the radial of the radius, just pretty much all around the radius bone. That's responsible for forearm pronation. And finally, you have your pronator quadratus, which is right here. It originates on the distal ulna and inserts on the distal radius, as responsible for forearm pronation, like so. Thank you, Chris. Thank you.